Kurama was as blunt as a hammer. You don't have chakra coils in your body, kid. Naruto's reaction was priceless. Whaat? Kurama chuckled. Naruto's reaction to surprises was turning out to be very amusing. He watched as Naruto seemed to have a panic attack within his own mind. The mind responded to his mental state, shaking violently. Kurama understood just how much that had rattled Naruto. "Calm down, Naruto. I wasn't finished," he shouted. Seeing how Naruto was showing no signs of calming down, Kurama let loose a small bit of his killing intent, enough to make a jonin sweat. Naruto, however, was totally inexperienced in experiencing killing intents, therefore his reaction was entirely predictable to Kurama. Naruto instantly froze in his place, all thoughts of Kurama's news fleeing his mind as he registered the new feeling. The mindscape stopped shaking as Naruto slowly turned towards Kurama. Voice shaking, he asked Kurama, what was that? Kurama stared Naruto in the eye, indicating he was serious. That was killing intent. Usually used by shinobis to intimidate each other. Whoever has the higher killing intent is able to make the other suffer illusions of death, if the killing intent is potent enough. "I'm surprised though, that you managed to stay conscious," he said with a raised eyebrow. Naruto was taking deep breaths during Kurama's explanation, trying to calm down. By the end of the explanation, he was almost back to his normal self. Scowling a bit, he asked, "And you thought that was the best way to calm someone who is having a panic attack?" Shrugging a bit, Kurama defended himself, "You have to start someday. Also, that was only a little of my killing intent. You have yet to experience my full killing intent," he finished, grinning maliciously in the end. Naruto, for his credit, showed no reaction and kept his face neutral. He would deal with this some other day. For now, he had to focus on his chakra problem. Clearing his throat, he asked, "What were you saying about my chakra coils before?" Kurama sat up, towering over Naruto, who had to look up towards him. "As I said, there are no chakra coils in your body. But that doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. At least, not yet. You have to first unlock your chakra so I can see if this is a problem or not." Naruto nodded, now fully in control of his emotions. He then gestured towards the lake. "What is that? I don't remember seeing it yesterday when I changed my mindscape." Kurama nodded at him. "You would be right. However, do you remember your question to me concerning trauma and your mindscape?" Naruto tilted his head, his eyes agreeing to Kurama's question. Kurama said, "Well, that theory applies to this lake as well. You may change your mindscape to anything, but there will always be a representation of what is already there, within your mind and body." Gesturing to the lake, he explained, "There are two things of importance that you need to know about this lake. Obviously, this represents your chakra, but there are some other things as well. The size of this lake represents the size of your reserves. I have minor difficulty in seeing the end of this lake, which means your reserves are impressively large for your age. The depth of this lake represents the density of your chakra. The deeper it is, the denser and more powerful your chakra is." Naruto was listening intently to Kurama. He had to admit, he couldn't see the other side of the lake, which meant that his reserves would have to be very large. The question that now remained was how deep the lake was. As if reading his mind, "See what I did there?" Kurama nodded knowingly. "You have to dive inside the lake to find out how deep it is. Before you do that, touch the water and tell me what you feel." Naruto frowned in confusion at the odd request, but nodded. He touched the water and instantly his frown deepened, as if he didn't like the feeling. Kurama turned his head towards him, asking, "What do you feel, Naruto?" Naruto removed his hand from the lake, saying, "Like it's incomplete. Something else should be there but it's not." Kurama nodded his head in agreement. "Okay, that missing thing is your chakra. Once you unlock your chakra, that feeling will be gone. Now, get into the lake and unlock it," he almost ordered Naruto. Naruto thought for a moment about how to proceed with this. Deciding it, he jumped inside, taking a deep breath. He swam his hands forward in a sharp motion, pulling them back to go deeper. He kept swimming for what felt like eternity. How deep is this lake? How dense is my chakra? Thoughts like these kept running through his head as he continued to go deeper. Strangely, he felt no need to breathe in this lake. Must be because I'm swimming in my own mind, he deduced. Finally, he saw what appeared to be the bottom. His efforts to reach there hastened. As soon as his hands touched the floor of the lake, he instinctively knew that his chakra was just beneath him. The floor of the lake was acting as a barrier between him and his chakra. He just needed a way to break the barrier so he could access his chakra. He decided to dump logic for this situation and force his way like a brute. An idea that would probably not work, but worth trying. Considering that this was his body and mind, the barrier would be only strong enough so he could break it with enough effort. He pulled his hand back, and punched it ground as hard as he could. He repeated this for 19 times. On the 20th time, a small crack appeared on the floor. Naruto noticed the crack and grinned in satisfaction. About time you cracked, he thought. Redoubling his efforts, he saw that with every punch, the crack widened. At last, the crack was big enough that he knew it would break in one last punch. Pulling back his fist, he brought it back down with all the force he could muster. As soon as his fist connected, the ground shattered from beneath him and he was assaulted by absolute euphoria. He felt complete now, the earlier feeling of something missing now completely gone. But the force with which the chakra was released was so great that he was forced out of the lake in just a few moments, contrary to the time he took to reaching the bottom. The last thing he heard from Kurama before being forced out of his awake was, "Damn, I haven't felt chakra this dense and powerful since the tree hugger himself. But the midnight blue is unusual." Enko was watching the blonde for almost 20 minutes now. Just what is he hoping to accomplish, she thought. She was getting impatient now. Just as she was about to turn and leave, she felt it. It was impossible to ignore, given how powerful the presence was. She wheeled around, eyes wide, staring at Naruto. He couldn't possibly be. Naruto's eyes opened a second before midnight blue chakra exploded from him. It was so dense and powerful that the ground around him cracked violently. Wind was blowing all around very fast by the sheer force of his chakra. Naruto lifted his hands in front of him, seeing the beautiful midnight blue color of his chakra flowing from his body. It almost seemed to be sparkling. The feeling was so exhilarating that he almost missed Kurama's voice, "Naruto. You are letting out too much chakra. Stop right now." Naruto, fortunately, noticed the urgency in Kurama's voice and immediately thought about reining it in. To his surprise, the chakra stopped exploding from him almost instantly. Unfortunately, he had already expelled too much of it. The sudden coming down from a high like that caused him to fall unconscious on his back. Enko, who had watched the whole spectacle, was looking at Naruto with eyes wide as dinner plates. Was that Kyuubi's chakra that exploded from him? No, the Kyuubi's chakra is orange. The chakra that exploded from him was blue. An unusual, darker shade, but blue nonetheless, which means that the chakra was his, she thought incredulously. Her one hand was now on her mouth, the amount that he was letting out can easily rival the Sandame's. But how did he unlock it, and that too so early? All kinds of questions were flashing through her mind, but seeing the kid fall unconscious on his back, she rushed to him, checking to see if he was all right. A sigh of relief escaped her when she saw that he had just collapsed from mild chakra exhaustion. He must be only 5 to 6 years old. Unlocking chakra at such a young age is unheard of. Most children unlock it after spending a year at the academy, and this kid does it before even entering the academy, she thought incredulously. It suddenly occurred to her that a blast of chakra like that would have attracted attention of almost all the shinobi in the village. Shinobi training kicking in, she picked the kid up and vanished in a shunshin to the Hokage's office. The Hokage sat in his chair, eyes glaring at the giant pile of paperwork that seems to materialize out of nowhere and just as he finishes the previous file. He was ridiculously irritated at how it so innocently sat in front of him. This is ridiculous. This blasted paperwork has to be a force of nature. There is no end to it, at all. It is always mocking me. To anyone else watching it, including the ANBU guards in the room, it seemed hilarious how the Hokage was locked in a glaring contest with paperwork of all things. But the captain of the ANBU group could relate to his boss, having to deal with something similar after every mission they do. Hiruzen finally lost his patience after staring at it for almost 15 minutes. So infuriated was the old Kage that he positioned his hands into a tiger seal and took a deep breath, intent on burning the paperwork away. He was 1 second from setting the paperwork on fire when he sensed it. The powerful burst of chakra, so powerful that he was sure almost every shinobi in the village felt it, censor or not. What was that? I didn't know any shinobi of mine was capable of releasing chakra at his scale. From what I sensed, it was powerful, overwhelmingly so, but there was no intention in that burst of chakra. No evil or good, it simply was neutral. Just what is going on, he thought. He decided that any shinobi who might be near the burst of chakra would respond and report to him shortly. With that, he turned his attention back onto the table and put his hands on it, closing his eyes. 5 minutes later, his door was knocked. He answered, "Come in." The door opened to show his secretary, Ikumi, a middle-aged woman, gesturing towards a purple-haired kunoichi carrying a familiar child with blonde hair in her arms. "Naruto, what happened to you now?" he thought in worry as he quickly gestured her inside. Enko gently laid Naruto on the couch in the office and then turned to face the Hokage. His eyes were hardened, having the look of a true, legendary shinobi instead of the man who was reduced to doing paperwork. His voice had an edge of steel. "What happened, Enko?" Enko was not nervous at all, as she had done no wrong. "Hokage-sama, I was just passing by the training fields when I saw Naruto Uzumaki sitting in the middle of a training field in a meditating position. I was curious, so I hid from his sight and observed for anything that would happen. 20 minutes passed and I was about to leave when I saw the most extraordinary thing, Hokage-sama." Hiruzen raised an eyebrow. A burst of powerful chakra and Enko comes to him with an unconscious Naruto? There seemed to be a link here. "What did you witness, Enko?" "A burst of chakra so powerful that I haven't felt anything like it before, Hokage-sama." The ground around him seemed to crack just by the force of his chakra. Hiruzen's eyebrows went upwards in a disbelieving motion. "You mean to say that Naruto here," he gestured to the boy on the couch, "unlocked his chakra and the burst of chakra from before was his chakra?" "Hi, Hokage-sama." Enko nodded in agreement. Hiruzen sat back in his chair, finding it quite hard to believe what Enko had told him. However, Enko had no reason to lie to him. Still, how was this possible? "Enko," he said to the kunoichi, "stay here right now until he wakes up." "I believe we should hear this right from the source," he said, looking at Naruto. Naruto was lying on his back in his mindscape, staring at the sky. Kurama was right beside him, head rested on his hands, looking content. Naruto sat up, eyes blinking around in confusion. "What happened?" Kurama replied in a bored tone, "You fell unconscious. It's as simple as that." Naruto's eyes widened in realization. "I unlocked my chakra. So what does that mean for my body, Kurama?" he asked, eager to address the problem of his absence of chakra coils. Kurama glanced at him. "I observed the release of your chakra. And I have good news. You can still control your chakra." Naruto seemed to practically melt in relief at that. "That is good." "I wasn't finished," Kurama's voice brought him back again. Your absence of chakra coils actually makes it easier for you to control your chakra. You can directly control it, without having to rely on chakra coils. Which means, you will actually have excellent chakra control. Hearing this, Naruto started jumping around in joy. He would be able to become a shinobi after all. Moreover, his chakra control would be excellent. Kurama was quick to burst his bubble, however. Continuing in the same lazy tone as before, Kurama said, "You were lucky, however. Most people would not be so fortunate as to controlling chakra without chakra coils." Naruto stopped dancing around and turned to Kurama with wide eyes. "Then why am I different?" At this Kurama shrugged and didn't bother to answer, saying only one thing before falling back asleep: start training to use it. With Kurama now asleep, Naruto had nothing to do in his mindscape. Might as well wake up, he thought. He walked up to a stream and promptly fell face first into it. It had been over 10 minutes since they were waiting for Naruto to wake up. Enko honestly did not know why the Hokage had asked her to wait in his office. But she had to follow whatever the Hokage said, so she waited, albeit impatiently. Hiruzen on the other hand was contemplating on what to do. He was in his classic thinking pose, elbows on his desk, chin rested on his hands and eyes closed. If what Enko had said was really true and Naruto had really unlocked his chakra, then perhaps it was time to begin Naruto's training. He had thought that Naruto would grow up normally in the academy, but it seemed nothing was normal if it was connected to Naruto. Maybe he could get Enko to train him. Suddenly he heard a groan from where Naruto was laid. His and Enko's eyes snapped to there as Naruto sat up, looking no worse for wear. His eyes seemed confused as he did not seem to recognize where he was. However, as soon as he saw him and Enko, the weariness clouding his eyes suddenly disappeared, replaced by cautiousness. "How the hell did I get here?" he mumbled as he studied the purple-haired kunoichi. He had never seen her before. The kunoichi spoke in a rude tone, "I brought you here after you successfully alerted the entire shinobi force of this village. What the hell were you even doing in the training field, brat?" Naruto suddenly remembered that he had unlocked his chakra successfully and did not stop the full-blown grin on his face. "Unlocking my chakra," he replied in a cool tone. "But how did you know to unlock your chakra, Naruto-kun?" Hiruzen asked curiously. A 5-year-old child unlocking their chakra, without any outside help, was simply unheard of. Not to mention how powerful the chakra was. Naruto did not think that he would be dragged into the Hokage's office to explain how he unlocked his chakra. He needed time to build up a lie about this. Unfortunately, he didn't have it as both of them were looking at him expectantly. So he just gave them his patented, making you feel stupid with a simple look. Both of them sweat dropped, thinking along the lines of, how does he do that so well? Fortunately for Naruto, it allowed him time to come up with a convincing lie. "Well, chakra is inside everyone, right? I thought if I looked deep inside myself, I would find it too. For the you-know-what, right Gigi?" Hiruzen looked confused for a moment, but realized it. Naruto wanted to unlock his chakra to get access to his parents' things left behind for him. But now, time to address the elephant in the room. "Now that you have unlocked your chakra, Naruto-kun, what will you do?" Naruto frowned for a moment and crossed his hands, causing Enko to hold back her urge to hug him and yell, "Kawaii." The kid looked mighty adorable. Naruto said, "I will train, or so I would like to say. Unfortunately, I have no idea as to how I should proceed now. Books have always been the answer to all my problems, but I feel that books can't teach me what I need to know practically," he revealed honestly. Perfect, Hiruzen thought with a hidden smile. Normally he would have Naruto wait for another year, letting him join the academy and then letting him learn all he needed. But he knew that Naruto was a naturally curious child. Who knows what experiments he would do to find out what he could do. It would be dangerous to leave Naruto to his own devices, or chakra. His eyes shifted to Anko, who was watching Naruto and barely restraining herself from glomping him. But if he were to get an instructor to teach him early, many consequences could be avoided. Also, since Naruto is a genius, he may not really fit in with his age group, not only because he would be far ahead of them, but also because even his generation keeps their distance from him. I also have this feeling that Naruto and Anko will bond spectacularly. He barely kept himself from grinning. Naruto can still enter the academy at the proper age and graduate with his age group class. Many of the teachers may not give him proper education because of their grudges against Kyuubi, but that treatment would be null and void if he is already so far ahead. The council will surely protest against this, calling this favoritism, but I can justify myself by saying that the village's Jinchuriki must be trained early so he could be ready for anything. The foolish council members will blindly agree to this, and if they don't, who are they to go against the Hokage? Oh, the pieces of Naruto's puzzle are falling together wonderfully, he thought to himself gleefully. Outward, he said, then it is probably safer to get you an instructor rather than you experimenting on your own. Anko finally caught on to the Hokage's plan as she wheeled around to face him with wide eyes. Hokage-sama. You can't possibly dash. I appoint Anko Mitarashi as instructor of Naruto Uzumaki, effective immediately, he declared. Naruto's eyes, along with Kurama's, were wide as dinner plates. This was totally unexpected. Naruto never expected to get a personal instructor. He, the village pariah, jailer of Kyuubi. But he was happy, and that was all that mattered to him. For Kurama, he found it hard to believe that the old monkey had balls big enough to pull this kind of stunt in his age. Anko protested, but Hokage-sama dash, do you have a problem with my decision, Anko? He asked with his voice hard. Anko immediately stood in attention, no Hokage-sama. Hiruzen immediately smiled, reverting back to his grandfather persona, good. I knew you would have no problem. Anko's sweat dropped at how fast the old man changed personalities. She actually thought that he was showing favoritism, because everyone knew how close he was to Naruto. But she also saw how special Naruto was. But she was not cut out to be an instructor, rather she didn't want to. She was more suited out in the field. Turning to Naruto, he said, Naruto, you can go back to your apartment. Anko and I have something to discuss. Also, report to the training field behind this tower, tomorrow morning, at 6 a.m. sharp. Naruto nodded and immediately left through the window. Turning his attention back to the special Jonin, he said, Anko, you have to understand that this is necessary. Naruto will face many difficulties in the future, and I fear that by the time everyone acknowledges him and comes to support him, it will be too late. Also, give him a chance. He will surprise you, he said with utmost seriousness. Anko was hesitant but nodded. Truthfully, she did not want to do this but had to anyway. The fact Hokage told the brat and her to report to the Hokage training fields was a surprise since they were exclusively reserved for the Hokage. She headed back to her apartment, thinking about how she should go about this. Naruto sat eating his dinner on his dining table. The cooking book the Hokage had provided was invaluable, allowing him to cook food for himself. He made sure to follow the instructions in the book word for word, and the results were raw eating. I might have some natural aptitude for cooking, otherwise I would have already blown the kitchen up, he mused. He was eternally grateful for what the old man had done for him. Now that he thought about it, he figured that when he entered the academy 2 years later, some instructors would be prone to discriminate with him. Perhaps this was the way of old man looking out for him in his shinobi life, he thought. He finished the dinner and washed the plates. After that he proceeded to his bedroom and laid down on his bed, closing his eyes. Tomorrow will be interesting indeed. Naruto's eyes opened as soon as the alarm he had set rang. His hand reached out and shut the alarm clock. Waking up at 5:30 in the morning left him plenty of time to get ready. He finished his morning rituals in 10 minutes and dressed in his normal, orange jumpsuit. He went to the fridge and pulled out 2 bananas, peeling one and eating it at comfortable pace, followed by the second. He finished and looked up at the clock. 5:50. Best get going, he thought. He went up and out of the door, making sure to lock it up properly. He hid the key inside the potted plant near the staircase. He exited the building and ran towards the grounds. The sun was just beginning to rise, so the air was still cool as it hit his face. He smiled as he increased the pace and reached the ground with 1 minute to spare. He was surprised to see that just as he had reached the ground, his new teacher also reached at the same time. Her eyes showed surprise at his appearance, but she gestured him to follow her. They arrived in the training ground after Anko said to the guards that they were authorized to use it. Arriving at the middle of the ground, she said, "Sit down, brat. Introduce yourself." Naruto frowned at the way she said it but did it anyway. Naruto Uzumaki, age 5 years, likes are reading and training, dislikes are the people who can't differentiate between a kunai and a sealing scroll, hobbies are none of your business, dream is to become the strongest Hokage ever. He began in a monotone, became slightly rude in the middle and finished it with a grin and a thumbs up. Anko grinned in a savage way after his introduction. Not many people had the guts to be rude to her, but this brat had no problem doing it. Time to instill the fear, she thought maliciously. Grabbing his collar, she jerked him forward until they were nose to nose. In a deadly whisper, she said, "I don't like brats like you who think that just because they are getting special treatment, they are above others." Naruto replied, unfazed, "And just because you are older and more powerful than me doesn't mean you have to be rude." Anko smirked and let go off Naruto, who sat back down. "I like you, kid, which means that I won't go easy on you. Get up and give me 10 rounds of this ground, fast." And so began his training. For a whole 4 weeks, she just concentrated on his physical conditioning. She wanted him to be physically fit for what she was about to mold him into. She was surprised at how obediently Naruto followed her commands. Whatever she told him to do, he did it without question. She ran him into the ground every day. So exhausted he was that as soon as she announced that the training for the day was over, he would collapse onto the ground, unable to move. She always carried him back to his home, and laid him in his bed. She also left him a bento every time, knowing he didn't have the energy to cook. Kurama always woke him up to eat. Naruto thanked her profusely every time, but she always waved him away, saying it was the duty of a sensei to care for the student. She didn't want him to know that she was growing fond of him. That would be embarrassing. Another good thing that both Naruto and Anko didn't know was that every time Naruto came back exhausted, Kurama always healed him up with his chakra. The good thing about this was that after every session, Naruto's muscles would be stronger than before, requiring much more to get exhausted. Today is the day he would learn to control chakra. And he was excited as hell. After his usual 15 rounds of the ground, Anko increased them. Anko decided he was satisfactorily warmed up and began explaining chakra control. "Alright kid, the first step to controlling chakra is to take a leaf and use your chakra to stick it to your forehead like this," she said, demonstrating the exercise. Naruto nodded before picking up a leaf from the ground and keeping it on his forehead and imagining his chakra creating suction at the point where the leaf touched his forehead. Surprisingly, it took him only 3 tries to get the amount of chakra right. On the 4th try, the leaf was easily sticking to his forehead and he stood there smiling proudly. He knew he would have good chakra control due to his lack of chakra coils. Using chakra for the first time felt really good. He simply had to imagine how his chakra flowed and sort of command it to do so, and voila. Task accomplished. Anko stood there, gaping at Naruto. Most kids took 4 to 5 days to get this exercise right, and this kid had done it 5 minutes. Absolutely unbelievable, and outright ridiculous, she decided. Does the term normal even apply to this kid? she thought with a twitching eyebrow. Hey, Enko-sensei, now that I've got it, what's next? Naruto asked with a grin. At this point, he was keeping the leaf stick with only minimal concentration. Enko grinned. A grin that Naruto never liked. It always meant his doom. Now, she said, taking out shuriken, keep that leaf stuck and dodge these. With that, she threw the shuriken at him. It was only his danger sense that saved him from skewered. This continued for almost 15 minutes, and at the end of those, Naruto was heavily panting. She looked like she almost wanted to kill me, he thought, drawing deep breaths. Enko looked proud. Well done, Naruto. You successfully dodged the shuriken and kept the leaf stuck to your forehead. Take a 5-minute break. Not many, no scratch that, no one managed that on their first try. It was starting to look like that this kid was born to be a shinobi. She contemplated if she should teach Naruto the tree walking exercise next. A relatively difficult exercise, a genin level in fact. But Naruto wasn't even in the academy. Still, doesn't hurt to try, right? After the 5-minute break was over, she called Naruto and they both walked towards a tree. Your next exercise would be to climb this tree with only your feet, she said. Naruto gave her a quizzical look. Isn't that kind of impossible, sensei? Enko rolled her eyes and lightly bonked him at the back of his head, with the aid of chakra. Honestly, where does your intelligence go sometimes, out of your head? Naruto rubbed the back of his head and laughed sheepishly. Enko then demonstrated the exercise. This is kind of similar to the leaf sticking exercise, except you are sticking yourself to a tree instead of sticking a leaf to you. If you use too little chakra, your foot won't stick. You use too much chakra, you get blasted off the tree. Begin. You can use a running start if you want. That would be absolutely pointless unless you have the amount of chakra in your leg right, thought Naruto as he walked to the tree and put his right foot on the bark, regulating the amount of chakra required to stick. After he got it right, he kept in mind the amount of chakra and carefully pushed the same amount in his left leg. Taking a deep breath, he lifted his left leg and put it on the bark, not losing concentration in his right leg. A huge smile appeared on his face as he successfully stuck to the bark. Tentatively, he took the next step and managed not to fall off. He continued this until he reached the top of the tree. Enko watched all of this with her jaw on the ground, dango long forgotten. There was no possible explanation as to how Naruto managed to walk up the entire tree in 5 minutes of learning the exercise. Then she released a resigned sigh. I don't even want to know anymore. This became the norm for everything. Naruto mastered tree walking in 2 hours, water walking in 4 hours, and spinning a kunai above his hand with his chakra in 1 day, all the while dodging Enko's shuriken and kunai. It was now time to give the monthly report to the Hokage. What? He asked blankly. It's true, Hokage-sama. Enko insisted. The smoking pipe had long since fallen off his mouth. This had to some kind of genjutsu. There was no way Naruto mastered all the chakra control exercises in just 2 days. Enko was a very deadly kunoichi, so any student she took, in this case, Naruto, had high standards to meet. But for Enko to say that Naruto did all of that in just 2 days, it was too much. He had no doubt that Naruto was very physically capable, but he had an Uzumaki heritage and as such, had monstrous reserves of chakra that could not be matched by anyone of his age. He expected Naruto to have problems in controlling his chakra, but from Enko's report it looked like he had an excellent control of his chakra. Enko then slowly asked him, knowing the Hokage was rattled to his bones by the news, Hokage-sama, can I have your permission to start teaching him ninjutsu and taijutsu? Granted. Naruto stood in his father's library, looking at the volumes of Fuinjutsu his mother had left for him. He picked the first volume and left the house. Enko had very generously given the next day off to him, which he planned to make full use of. For some reason, he thought, that Anko was very surprised at the speed at which he mastered those exercises. He had been asking her when he could start learning ninjutsu and taijutsu, but she always said that first he needed to build up endurance and stamina. After closing the door to his apartment, he set the thick book on the dining table and entered his bedroom, falling asleep. It was a late night after all, and sneaking around made him tired, especially after his sadistic sensei's training. His alarm rang at 7 next morning. Waking up, he did his morning rituals and made himself some breakfast. That reminds me, the stock that Gigi gave me will be finished soon. I need to go shopping, he thought. After breakfast, he picked up the Fuinjutsu volume and started reading. He finished it in 4 hours, including the test that his mother wrote for him at the end of the book. I didn't know Fuinjutsu was this easy, he thought in confusion as he checked the answers of his test. It's not, you insane child, Kurama grumbled. He had been seeing and hearing Fuinjutsu since the tree huggers era and frankly, it annoyed the hell out of him. He was much more suited to perform acts of destruction than delicate writing. Naruto easily ignored him and finished checking the answers. All of them correct. No surprise there, he thought smugly. Photographic memory was so useful. He finished another volume the same day, with the same results in the test at the end of the book. 8 hours of Fuinjutsu was mentally exhausting, he thought. He just slept the rest of the day, waking up only to make and eat dinner, and fell asleep again. The next day, Anko started his taijutsu training. I'm going to teach you my style of fighting, Naruto. The snake style requires you to be light and flexible, capable of quick strikes and counterattacks and weaving in between them. She then grabbed Naruto's collar. You will learn and master this style in 1 year, brat, or even Kami won't be able to save you from my wrath, she threatened, enforcing her threat with a bit of killing intent. It had absolutely no effect whatsoever on him, since he already had a taste of Kurama's killing intent. However, he nodded vigorously. Anko was pretty terrifying, even without killing intent. The next month he spent learning Tai and ninjutsu simultaneously. Due to his photographic memory and the peculiar ability of his body, he progressed quickly in taijutsu. He found that even though it was a formidable style, the snake style did not have the symbolizations of all 5 elements. Ninjutsu on the other hand, he felt like he was born to do it. It took him only 5 tries to master the Henge no Jutsu, and 9 tries to master the Kawarimi. 2 days later, he had mastered the seal-less Kawarimi. But no matter how hard he tried, even with his excellent chakra control, could he perform the Bunshin no Jutsu. Eventually, Anko got so fed up that they took the matter to the Hokage, who suggested that the Kage Bunshin no Jutsu would be more suited for Naruto. Considering how large his chakra reserves were, it would be impossible for him to squeeze a drop of it that was required to perform the Bunshin. It took 2 hours for Naruto to learn the Kage Bunshin, and when he did learn it, Anko and Hiruzen, who had come to supervise the teaching of the Kenjutsu, were dumbstruck at the amount of clones Naruto could make. 100 clones at Naruto's age stupefied the Hokage so much that it took him almost 15 minutes to snap out of his shock. Naruto soon discovered a very interesting aspect of the Kage Bunshin. He could remember everything what his clones saw or heard. And he had no qualms abusing the shadow clones after that. He would make a shadow clone study Fuinjutsu while he trained with Anko. In 8 days, all the volumes of Fuinjutsu were finished. He had even learned how to print seals onto surfaces with his chakra. Now technically, that would make him a seal master, but his mother had written him a note that even after finishing all the volumes, he would have to be tested by a certified seal master to be considered a seal master. He knew no one who was one, so he asked his Gigi if he could test him. But the old man had questions of his own. You're telling me that you finished all the volumes of Fuinjutsu your mother left you in just 10 days, his voice sounded unbelieving. Naruto nodded, his expression serious. Hiruzen let out a small nervous chuckle. Forgive me if I find that hard to believe, Naruto-kun. Naruto shrugged. He figured he could tell him of his gifts. When you have a photographic memory, coupled with shadow clones, you tend to abuse it. GG. Hiruzen looked shocked at the fact, you have a photographic memory? Naruto nodded, yes. Hiruzen then sighed, aside that, I'm sorry Naruto-kun, but I'm not a certified seal master and as such, I am not qualified to test you, he told Naruto regretfully. But my student Jiraiya is. Tell you what, when he visits the village next time, I will tell him to test you. Is that okay for you? Naruto figured that he had no choice, alright. It had been 2 months since Anko started training Naruto, and he had progressed spectacularly. With the most common ninjutsu out of the way, she focused solely on his taijutsu, which grew by leaps and bounds, but he was still far from giving her a challenge. After those 2 months, Anko figured that it wouldn't hurt teaching the boy chakra nature transformations. Naruto sat in front of Anko, who was standing and explaining the chakra nature transformations. There are 5 basic nature transformations: fire, wind, water, lightning, and earth. Each element is connected to each other in a way. Fire is weak against water but strong against the wind, wind is strong against lightning but weak against fire, lightning is strong against earth but weak against wind, earth is weak against lightning but strong against water, water is strong against fire but weak against earth, she explained. She handed him a slip of paper, that is chakra paper. It will tell you your chakra affinity. If you have fire it will burn, tear in half with wind, shrink if lightning, crumble to dust if earth and soak wet if water. Naruto nodded and focused a tiny bit of his chakra into the paper. What happened next blew his own mind away, alongside Anko's. Inside his mind, Kyubi grinned. Even he did not expect that, but it was a nice surprise. The paper split into 3 parts. One soaked up very heavily, the second crumpled up into a ball, and the last one burned to ashes. Anko threw up her hands and walked away, muttering things about having early gray hairs and surprises. Naruto blinked for a second and then grinned. Awesome. When the Hokage came to know, he promptly fainted like a schoolgirl. When he woke up, he was convinced that Naruto would grow up to become the most unpredictable ninja ever. What happened the next 3 months was chakra nature manipulation. He would make 4 groups of 25, each group practicing a different nature. For the first time, he had a challenge. Changing the nature of chakra was a lot more difficult than he thought. It took him 1 whole month to master only the first step for elemental manipulation for all 4 of his affinities. Cutting a leaf in half for wind, collecting water from the leaf for water, shrinking up the leaf for lightning, and burning the leaf to ashes for fire. The second and final step took him a whole 2 months. For wind, it was cutting a rock clean in half; for water, it was separating water from other liquids; for lightning, it was cracking a stone into pieces with lightning chakra; for fire, it was boiling water. Anko had left him to his own devices after he started his elemental training. But she checked on him every now and then. He always teased her on how she was acting like his mother, which always resulted in him having a bruised head. After those 3 months, however, he met his godfather. Flashback. He was practicing his taijutsu katas on the training field when he sensed a presence. He was slowly developing his sensory abilities with the help of Kurama. He turned around to see no one, but he knew someone was standing just a few feet in front of him. "Who's there?" he asked. The air in front of him shimmered and a man appeared. He wore a red sleeveless coat and pants, a green kimono underneath and Geta sandals. He had long white hair and was very well built, standing well over 6 feet. "So you could sense me. Very impressive. Do you know who I am?" Naruto answered as if he wasn't even fazed, "Jiraiya of the Sannin." Jiraiya grinned, "Sensei told me that you mastered all 10 volumes of Fuinjutsu your mother left you in 10 days. I don't believe you," he said in a challenging tone. Inside, however, he was thinking, "Oh Minato, Kushina, if only you could see your son right now, he thought wistfully. Naruto was also having some thoughts. His tone of speaking would suggest that he was familiar with my mother, but how? I know that he was dad-sensei, which means he also is a Fuinjutsu master. But how close was he? Outward, he shrugged, doesn't matter if you do or not. Your job is to test me, nothing else. Jiraiya was a little deflated at how Naruto was acting so detached. He knew that Naruto did not know that he was his godfather, but it still hurt. Reining in his emotions, he spoke. Let's get this over with then. 3 hours later, he stood in the field, staring at Naruto with a gaping jaw. Naruto was standing there, panting. Jiraiya had tested him on every aspect of Fuinjutsu. Both written test and how he would apply it in battle. Obviously he lost, but Jiraiya was seriously impressed at how the kid was able to apply Fuinjutsu in battle. The versatility was clearly there, along with a touch of unpredictability. What is the result? Both of them turned to the voice that had spoken. The Sandaime Hokage was standing there with a small smile on his face, as if he knew what the answer was. He passes, Jiraiya replied, still in a daze. Naruto nodded at that and sat down with as much grace he could muster. He promptly fell back after that, asleep before hitting the ground, his last thought being, I finally became a seal master. Flashback end. Jiraiya had revealed to him after the test that he was his godfather. Initially, he was downright furious that Jiraiya had just abandoned him to the wolves. But after calming down and thinking it through, he realized that Jiraiya had duties outside the village walls, which is why he could not raise him. He did not forgive him, saying he will have to earn his forgiveness. Jiraiya looked relieved at that and promised to make it up to him. Before he knew it, 1 year had passed and it was time for him to enter the academy. Walking along with his Gigi in the school corridors, he wondered if he would be able to make any friends. Stopping in front of a door, his Gigi opened the door, showing a Chunin instructor with a scar on his face and his hair shaped into a pineapple ponytail. Hokage-sama, is anything wrong? Hiruzen waved him away, nothing at all, Arika. I just came here to bring Naruto-kun. He will be starting from today. Irika looked at Naruto and Naruto was instantly able to recognize the look. After all, he had received it many times. Looking into the class, he saw the same look on many of the students' faces. He sighed, it will be a long 6 years. Time skip, 6 years. A lone figure was standing on top of the gates of Konoha. He was tall for his age, standing at 5 feet. He was wearing a white and black, half-sleeves jacket with 2 orange stripes on the sleeves, connected to the ones going along his zip which stopped at his chest, his high collar standing up. There was a blue lightning symbol on his back, in the black stripe. He wore a full-sleeves black shirt underneath the jacket with 2 bands, one on his wrists and the other just beneath his elbows. He wore dark blue ANBU pants with orange stripes on the side, going all the way to the ankle. He wore simple blue shoes with white soles. Think of the pants like Sasuke's in Road to Ninja, but instead of sandals it's shoes. On his right thigh he wore a holster held with white tape, and a standard shinobi pouch tucked in at the back of his pants, on the left side. His bright, spiky blonde hair was tied in a messy ponytail. He was Naruto Uzumaki, and today was the day of his graduation exam. As he stood on top of the gate, he reflected on what he had gone through in the 6 years of academy. Just a few days into the academy told him that he was going to receive the short end of every stick. Even though he had no need to learn the academy taijutsu style, he could tell that the stances taught to him were all wrong. But he gave no indication that he knew this. Theory lessons were roughly the same. The teachers taught the different concepts in the class, but never answered any of his doubts. Instead, they tried to sabotage his answers as much as they could. Not that they could do that. Being a genius had its perks. On the bright side, he made a lot of new friends. Friends that he could actually count on. Hinata Hyuga of the Hyuga clan was the first friend she made. He could tell she was an incredibly shy girl who had confidence issues, but a very warm person to befriend. She spoke in the language of stutters, which for some reason, seemed to intensify around him. Her face also turned very red whenever he spoke to her, and she fainted most of the times, which is why he let her do most of the talking. She became his friend after he saved her from bullies. Chuji Akimichi of the Akimichi clan was a chubby boy who always seemed to have some snack in his hand. Chuji had a very big heart once he got to know him through a shared lunch. He was a very caring person, very kind and strong. But he also suffered from lack of self-confidence. He was also very sensitive about his weight, angered very quickly if someone called him fat. Nonetheless, Naruto considered him a dear friend. Shikamaru Nara of the Nara clan was Chuji's best friend, because he was the first one to look past his weight and find who Chuji truly was. He was also incredibly lazy, his catchphrase being, troublesome. Along with that, he was probably the most intelligent person Naruto had met. He didn't know Shikamaru's exact IQ, but he knew his lazy friend was high up in that department, even more so than Naruto. Shikamaru was a true genius at shogi, which is where his weakness also lied. He spent most of his time cloud gazing, or playing shogi to sharpen something which was already sharp. He was the epitome of lazy. But Shikamaru and Chuji were Naruto's closest friends. They even took part in the occasional prank that Naruto played. They even enjoyed the punishments they got together after testing their teachers, Irika Yumano's patience. Every moment he spent with them, a strong desire to protect them pulsed in his heart. Kiba Inazuka of the Inazuka clan was more of an annoyance that grated on his nerves. He was short-tempered and impulsive, which did not help him at all. He was also headstrong, which was probably the reason he got very easily angered in his spars and made mistakes. He always carried his Ninken, Akamaru with him at all times. Akamaru was a small puppy who fit in Kiba's jacket. He always responded to Kiba's nonsense and was always on his side. He held a one-sided rivalry with Naruto and Sasuke. Shino Aburame of the Aburame clan was a calm, collected and a mysterious person, a stark contrast to Kiba's personality. He rarely smiled and gave almost no emotion away while speaking. He was always on the side of logic, always having some sort of explanation to his answers. It always drove Kiba nuts when Shino started to preach logic to him. Naruto made friends with him because Shino was also treated like an outcast because of his ability to control insects. Naruto could empathize with him. He sometimes sat with Shino just so he could enjoy the silence. Ino Yamanaka from the Yamanaka clan was a very loud, outspoken girl, and a very devoted fangirl of Sasuke Uchiha. She was also very proud of her appearance, eating less so she could appear more attractive for her, Sasuke-kun. She was a very kind-hearted person at heart, but that side of her was rarely seen by Naruto. She also loved gossip and had made her goal to ensure that nothing stayed secret from her. Not someone he trusted right now, but was sure he would later. Sakura Haruno was a civilian girl who was a rival of Ino's for Sasuke's attention. She was highly self-conscious about her large forehead, which she hid behind her pink bangs. She only had eyes for Sasuke, and often tried to ask him out on dates. Of course, she was always denied. But she tried to immediately hit Naruto after every denial, believing it was his fault. Of course, Naruto never allowed her to hit him, but simply avoided her. There were times though, when he suspected she had split personality disorder. He didn't trust her at all. These people were the only ones who were worth acknowledging. The rest of them simply treated him as the rest of the village did. But there was one person who was closest to Naruto's heart out of all of them. Irika Yumano was his class instructor. He at first thought that Irika was just like the others. But somewhere down the line, when Irika scolded him for one of his pranks, he was surprised that he cared for him enough to scold him. He then started treating Naruto for who he was, instead of what he contained. He occasionally took Naruto to Ichiraku Ramen to eat his favorite dish and was very kind to him. Naruto always felt that Irika was perhaps the only person who he felt a familial relationship with aside from the Sandaime. Sasuke Uchiha was, in the simplest terms, a Class A douchebag. He always acted like he was the god's greatest gift to mankind. In short, Naruto was stupefied how arrogant Sasuke was. He always brooded in class, which somehow his fangirls perceived as cool. He had perhaps the strangest personalities Naruto had ever seen. A mixture of superiority and inferiority complex. Naruto hated how Sasuke was labeled a genius, when he really wasn't. Genius was what Naruto would call the Yondaime Hokage, the Nidaime Hokage, Kakashi Hatake and Itachi Uchiha. Not Sasuke. Sasuke always evaluated new people that he met. If they were weaker than him, he would arrogantly disregard them, feeling they would hold him back. If they were stronger, he would relentlessly try to surpass them, believing he should be their equal, if not stronger. This infuriated Naruto the most. He hated how Sasuke believed that he should have no equals. He knew how Sasuke's clan was massacred in a single night by the prodigy of the Uchiha clan, Itachi. No one knew why he had done it, but it had left Sasuke deeply scarred. Naruto tried to befriend him at first, thinking the lone boy could use a friend. Instead, he was rudely rejected and outright insulted. Sasuke had said that he had no wish to befriend the class clown, who was also the dead last. Since then, Naruto simply stopped interacting with him outside spars, where he forced himself to lose every time. He did not want to reveal all his cards just yet. But on the inside, he had a desire to be acknowledged by him. His training had gone very well in the last 6 years. He had finished his taijutsu training in 1.5 years, with 6 additional months of self-training. After that, Anko had proudly declared him to be a master of the snake-style taijutsu after getting stalemated in a spar with him. It was after this he had started creating his own style, using the snake style as foundation. His own imagination was very useful in creating moves, blocks, strikes that were completely unique to his style. After he had mastered the snake style, he had started to work on his speed and with the help of shadow clones, had drawn resistance seals on his body. It was a bit weird at first, but he quickly got accustomed to it. Currently, he was on the 12th level of the resistance seal. He could have already started using the training simulation, but felt that the time was not right, so he held off until he became a genin, preferring to spar with Anko. Her help was invaluable in creating his new style, which was very unpredictable, exactly how he wanted it to be. His style had an attack stance, but he preferred to let his opponents attack him first. He had incorporated his danger sense into his style, making it even more efficient. His style was a combination of linear and unpredictability. He would attack whenever he saw the openings and attack however he could. He had based his style so he did not have any restrictions or limitations. In short, he had successfully created and mastered his own fighting style in 5 years, and just like his father said, it was as aggressive as fire, as sharp as wind, as fast as lightning, as strong as the earth, as fluid as water, and as unpredictable as the nature. The perfect fighting style. He decided to name it the Elemental Fist. Pretty badass. His sensory abilities had been perfected over the course of 6 years. He had help from his Jiji, whose sensei, the Nidaime, was said to be the greatest censor of his time. He had graciously allowed him to study his sensei's scrolls on sensing. The more Naruto read, the more he was convinced that the Nidaime was a genius of his father's caliber. He had developed his own sensing techniques, which Naruto had eagerly learnt. Naruto could now accurately sense chakra to the point that he could identify nature affinities if he concentrated hard enough. His ninjutsu had progressed as far as well. His chakra control and reserves only increased over time, and he made sure he had enough jutsu in his arsenal of all 4 of his affinities. He had also created a way of copying jutsu from others. Whenever he would watch someone perform a jutsu, he would immediately hone in on the chakra in that person's body, sensing how it was being molded. His photographic memory combined with his now controlled danger sense ensured he could copy hand seals in slower perception. This skill had greatly impressed his Jiji. He was also pretty smug about the fact that he had successfully copied the great fireball jutsu from Sasuke from when he had once watched him train. Also, he had literally begged the Sandame to let him study from the Nidame's library, considering that he had 4 affinities that could rival Tobirama's water affinity, and the former Hokage literally had a huge library that was full of jutsus of all nature transformations. Sarutobi was outraged at his request, but Naruto had reasoned that he had the ability to make use of them. Besides, the Nidame had no use for them now since he was dead. Sarutobi had very reluctantly allowed him to study from the library, but had made him swear that he won't tell anyone. The fact that he was a seal master had helped him study and understand the Hiratian scroll his father had left him. He had to admit that it was incredibly complex. From what he understood, it was a part of the rarely studied field of spacetime. It was a perfect combination of ninjutsu and fuinjutsu. His father had left him an astounding amount of chakra theory for him to recreate the jutsu. In summary, it was using fuinjutsu to create a temporary tear in spacetime, traveling through it and appearing on the other end near instantly. It relied on the principle of teleportation. Once you enter the tear of spacetime, your body is dispersed into millions of particles of chakra that reassembled just before you exited the spacetime. Naruto's challenge was in recreating the Jutsu Shiki, seal formula. His father's famous kunai had only 5 kanji on it that he used very successfully. The scroll was enormous, even with his father's improved notes. He had to shorten it, just like his father did, into 5 or 6 kanji. At first he had made the mistake of using his father's formula, imprinted on a kunai, the difference being that instead of his father's chakra, it was his. It even sort of worked, but he slowly discovered the problem in that method. It was taking him too long to sense the kunai, he was wasting chakra as well. He had then reread that every Hiratian formula was unique to its user. He had to painstakingly start from scratch to build his own formula, which would require a lot of time. 2 months of curses and ink marks later, he had proudly created his own Hiratian formula, with a few interesting modifications of his own. He had modified his formula so that instead of sensing the kunai and forcing yourself into the spacetime, which had become easier with his own formula, he maintained a very weak link with whatever he had put his formula in. Whenever he molded chakra and honed on a particular kunai, the link would instantly teleport him, without him having to force himself through. He now required significantly less chakra to use Hiratian, and sensing the kunai became easier. His formula was 4 kanji symbols forming the phrase, fall down 7 times, stand up 8. It was his proudest creation yet. There was one last modification he had made, but gave credit of it to Kurama. Kurama had very strategically pointed out that he would not be able to use Hiratian in places where there is water. For 4 days straight, he worked on another formula which would allow his kunai to stick on water surface. When he had finally tried the Flying Thunder God, he was ecstatic. But he also discovered the jutsu's disadvantages. It took time getting used to. It took him 37 successful teleport attempts to end up on the other side without nauseating. He still sucked at genjutsu. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't perform a single one. But thanks to his sensory abilities, he could easily break out of one. But this hadn't been tested as of yet. Kurama had very patiently told him that due to the abundance of yang chakra in him, he could never perform genjutsu, which required in chakra. He had pondered on whether to learn kenjutsu or not, but something inside him, not Kurama, told him that he was not cut out for it. To compensate for it, he had perfected his fighting with dual kunai held in reverse grip. He also knew that he could coat the kunai with wind chakra to sharpen it and lengthen its reach, but had yet to try it out in a real fight. An important thing he had discovered in the last 6 years was that he was alone. He knew that before as well but had no idea how bad it was. Whenever the parents would come pick their children up, they would turn scornful gazes on him. It cut him every time, but he never allowed it to show on his face. He simply covered with a bored, indifferent look. He had developed a technique of his own after learning the Shunshin no Jutsu, just for battle purposes. The Shunshin simply took too much time for his taste, and he did not want to become too reliant on the Hiraishin. Therefore, he created Shunpa, the flash step. He would focus his chakra into his leg and would vanish in a sudden burst of speed. He created this for short-distance purposes in a fight. He was probably at low chunin to mid-chunin speeds, counting with the resistance seals on. He also had his IQ tested by Gigi. With an IQ of 177, he was one of the rare geniuses that came once in a generation. He was in league with the Yondaime, the Nidaime and Itachi Uchiha. As he stood upon the gates reminiscing, a sudden noise caught his attention. He smirked. That's right, all the alarms would be sounding now, waking them up from their precious sleep. It was his final prank before he became an official ninja. All the civilian council members had been pranked by him. He had set off a timed-release stink bomb in each of the houses, courtesy of Fuinjutsu. He knew the blame would come onto him, but he had made sure nothing connected him to the crime. He also knew that the ANBU would be searching for him due to his prankster reputation. Normally he would proudly take credit for his work, but since it was the important people this time, he made sure to have an alibi, which was the academy. He had specifically set them off just 5 minutes before the first bell rang, 10 minutes before which he was already in class usually. He easily sensed the jutsu shiki he had imprinted in the tree outside the academy and silently vanished in a tiny, blue flash. Appearing on the tree, he closed his eyes as if searching for something. The next moment, the air around him shimmered a little. Naruto then puffed into smoke, signifying that he had perfectly substituted with the shadow clone that was sitting inside the class. The class was as usual, very noisy and chaotic. Thankfully, his shadow clone was sitting on the last bench, which meant he did not draw unnecessary attention. As the memories of the clone came to him, he blinked and then scoffed at the stupidity of the people. Did they really think I would keep wearing that orange jumpsuit? The shadow clone had received stares from people in his change of clothes. Sakura had yelled at him to not act like he was cool, but he had ignored it easily, as was his habit. The clock struck 8, and Irika-sensei entered the classroom followed by Mizuki-sensei. Naruto hated him. Mizuki always tried to fail Naruto in all the tests by casting genjutsu on them, making them appear tougher. But Naruto paid no mind and continued writing the wrong answers to maintain his facade of dead last. He gave no indication that he knew of Mizuki's pathetic ways to fail him. Finally, the class settled down and Mizuki handed out the papers. As he gave it to Naruto, a very ugly sneer appeared on his face, kind of like a sick smile. Naruto looked at his paper and back to Mizuki, who seemed to be glowing with triumph. Naruto sent an "Are you kidding me?" look mixed in a deadpan stare. He then promptly dispelled the genjutsu on the test, making a blank page appear. "So this is your game," he thought with amusement. Raising his hand, he said in a cool tone that perfectly matched his facial expression of bored indifference, "Mizuki-sensei, I believe that you put this blank page here by mistake." Mizuki's thunderous expression almost made him smirk, but he reined it in with experience. He came up to Naruto, a smile straining his face. "Thanks for pointing it out, Naruto. Good thing you spotted it, otherwise you would have failed," he said, placing the real test on his desk. Turning back, a furious expression came across his face. How did the demon spot the genjutsu? He never could do it before. Usually when tests were conducted, Naruto would purposely answer so he barely passed or failed. But today, he decided to let his intelligence shine through. He could hold back a little less today. He finished the paper with 20 minutes to spare, but kept the appearance of writing as to avoid suspicion. He could see that Sakura and Sasuke had also finished roughly at the same time. It was not surprising since Sakura was considered the class bookworm and Sasuke was quite intelligent. Everyone else finished at roughly at same time around. After collecting their papers, Iruka-sensei called out, "All right everyone, next section will be weapons. Proceed to the practice fields." Naruto waited in the crowd for his turn. Since it was alphabetical order, he was pretty much in the last. He watched as Sasuke's turn came and observed as Sasuke hit all the 10 bullseyes for kunai and shuriken, save for one. 9 bullseyes out of 10 was the highest score yet. Finally, it was his turn. He went in front of the crowd and to the box where the shuriken were kept. He took 5 of them out and holding 3 in his left hand and 2 in his right, threw them all simultaneously. He watched as they all hit bullseye with boredom, as if he did this every day. He proceeded to do the same with kunai. The whole class was shocked and gaping at what they saw. Naruto Uzumaki, the class clown and dead last, had beaten Sasuke Uchiha's score very easily. The said Uchiha was frowning heavily, not liking that the dead last of the class had beaten his score, that too looking as if he was barely concentrating. Iruka was shocked as well. Naruto never displayed such skill before. "Gee, good job, Naruto. You have the highest score in the class," he complimented, before moving on to the next student, not noticing that Mizuki was barely keeping himself from strangling the blonde. The said blonde turned in his direction and gave a smirk, infuriating him even more. After the weapons part of the exams was over, Iruka called out, "Everyone, gather around for the taijutsu portion of this exam." Naruto frowned minutely at this. Every time they practiced taijutsu, he was always up against Sasuke, no doubt because Mizuki wanted to see him lose. This time would be no different. He was right. "Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki, please enter the ring," Mizuki announced almost gleefully. He was fully prepared to see Naruto beaten down and if he was lucky, he could fail him. "Beat Baka Naruto, Sasuke-kun." Sakura screeched, causing many people to cover their ears. Ino supported her by shouting as well, "Show him you're the best, Sasuke-kun." Naruto could have sworn that he saw blood coming out of Akamaru's ears. Almost no one cheered for him, but his sensitive ears caught a soft-spoken voice saying, "Gee, good luck, and Naruto-kun." He smiled and thanks at Hinata, who fainted at his smile. He then turned his attention towards Sasuke, the same bored look from before back on his face. Sasuke stepped in with a serious frown, still feeling upset that the dobe of all people beat him. Naruto still had the infuriating look of bored indifference on his face, as if he barely considered Sasuke a challenge. Sasuke almost snarled, "That dobe is mocking me." "Hajime," Mizuki called out and jumped out of the ring. Sasuke slid into his clan's fighting style, the interceptor fist. Since it mainly relied on the Sharingan, he could not use it to his full potential. "But I don't need the Sharingan to beat dobe of all people," he thought smugly. But wasn't prepared for what came to him. Naruto was contemplating whether he should end this quickly or prolong it, just to see how angry he could get Sasuke. "Nah, I'll end this quick," he thought. He would use every advantage he could get. It was his fighting style after all. He stood in a semi-ready stance, watching as Sasuke did not bother to enter his until the signal to begin was given. "Got him," he thought with a mental smirk. As soon as the signal was given, Naruto didn't waste any time to get into a stance. Sasuke had provided an opening, and he would fully use it. He used the speed he had built up all over the years to get into Sasuke's guard in an instant. One moment Naruto was standing opposite to him, another moment he was kneeing Sasuke's chin, very painfully. The force of the blow was such that Sasuke was thrown right out of the ring. Even though he recovered mid-air and was able to soften his landing, a furious expression was on his face. Kurama was heartily laughing inside his mind, pleased to see Sasuke getting his ass handed to him. The class was silent for a moment. Naruto had beaten Sasuke a second time, that too in just one move. Then came the accusations, Naruto cheated, Iruka-sensei. There's no way Baka Naruto can beat Sasuke-kun. He cheated, Iruka-sensei. Iruka was getting fed up at how the fangirls were shouting ridiculous and useless accusations. He could see what Naruto had used was pure speed, and nothing else. Shut up. Naruto has not cheated. If anyone knows better, speak up. Naruto was watching the drama unfold with hands crossed across his chest, amusement dancing in his eyes. He almost laughed when Sakura, the ever-devout fangirl, screeched, Iruka-sensei. There's no way Baka Naruto could beat Sasuke-kun. Therefore he must have cheated. That's a very logical reason, isn't it? Naruto thought with sarcasm. Iruka turned a stern glare on her, and just how did Naruto cheat? Care to explain, Sakura? Sakura opened her mouth, but closed it since nothing came to mind. An embarrassed blush spread across her face and she fell back into the crowd. Iruka nodded and called out, everyone head inside for the ninjutsu portion. Mizuki was looking like someone shit in his breakfast and made him eat it. Don't you get so smug, demon. I will fail you somehow, he thought angrily. They headed into their class and everyone sat down, keeping their distance from Naruto, who had gone to the back of the class and had pulled out a book to read. All right, you will all sit here until we call out your name. When we do, come into the next room for your exam, Iruka said before calling the first student. Sasuke had long since gone back to brooding again, though this time he had a faint aura of anger around him. How is the dobe so good? I never saw any signs of skill in him and every time he was the last in class, so why was he able to beat me that easily? It doesn't make any sense, he thought furiously. Soon enough, it was Sasuke's turn. He went out of the door and returned 5 minutes, a hitai ate on his head. He smirked in the direction of Naruto, but grit his teeth when he saw that Naruto wasn't even paying attention to his surroundings, he was too engrossed in his little book. This book is very interesting, he thought as he read the Tips and Tricks of Fuinjutsu I written by his parents. So engrossed he was that he almost missed his name being called out. He snapped his book shut and put it in his pocket. He then proceeded into the next room. Iruka and Mizuki were sitting on chairs, a desk in front of them. Mizuki watched with barely hidden glee, today you will fail, demon. All right Naruto, perform the Henge no Jutsu, Iruka instructed. Naruto nodded and formed the ram seal. A puff of smoke later, the Yondaime Hokage was standing in front of them. Iruka smiled. Naruto was full of surprises today, very good, Naruto. Now perform the Kawarimi no Jutsu. Naruto nodded and a second later, Mizuki was sitting on the ground, wondering how he came there. A second later, he turned furious eyes onto Naruto, who was looking a little too innocent. I'm sorry sensei, are you okay? He asked, with fake concern in his voice. Mizuki got up and brushed himself. I'm okay Naruto, don't worry, he said with gritted teeth. Iruka nodded approvingly, excellent Naruto, you performed it without smoke and without seals too. You get extra points for that. He looked up from the paper and said, lastly, perform the Bunshin no Jutsu. There was some fear in his voice. Naruto could never perform it perfectly. But Naruto surprised them yet again. Holding up a half-ram seal, there was a puff of smoke and 3 Narutos were standing in front of him. Of course, they were actually Kage Bunshin, but they didn't need to know that. He was actually proud that he only needed a half-ram to execute Kage Bunshin, instead of the full seal. Mizuki watched helplessly as Iruka declared Naruto passed and told him to pick between black and blue. Naruto picked the blue hitai and asked if Iruka could tie it just beneath his left jacket sleeve. Walking out of the room, he saw that the class was giving him the same, gaping look, again. Annoyance passed on his face. What are you looking at? Kiba pointed an accusing finger at him, a shocked look on his face. You got a Hitai 8. Naruto simply gave him a deadpan stare. Slowly clapping, he sarcastically drawled, well done Kiba, you now have a firm grasp of the obvious. Snickers erupted in the classroom as Naruto made Kiba feel stupid with a single statement. Kiba prepared to pounce on Naruto when Iruka entered the classroom. Everyone settled down. After everyone was seated, he said, those people who have passed will come tomorrow in the morning for team assignments. You can leave now. Naruto leisurely walked out of the academy, in no hurry. He had nothing else to do, so he sat down on the swing on the academy's tree. He sat there for a long time, thinking of what he will eat today. He sensed someone coming and hid his scowl. What does Mizuki want now? Mizuki came up behind Naruto. Congratulations on passing, Naruto. He almost threw up in his mouth saying that. Naruto curtly replied, thanks. He said no more than that, he didn't need to. Mizuki approached him, so he will be the one to talk. I was impressed on how you performed, Naruto. But you still don't have enough points to claim Rookie of the Year. I will offer you a special test, if you're interested in that title, he said. Naruto just looked at the man. What a fucking idiot, Kurama helpfully supplied. But Naruto wanted to see where this was going. Really, Mizuki-sensei? He hopefully asked. Mizuki smiled at how easily he fooled the demon. Yeah. You just need to take a scroll from the Hokage vault in the Hokage's office and bring it to me beside the old shed in the forest at midnight. You know that, right? Bring it to me and consider yourself the Rookie of the Year, he said as he walked away. He really has a very low opinion of you, doesn't he? Kurama commented. Naruto mentally agreed, he just asked me to steal the forbidden scroll. What a moron, he thought as he flashed to the Hiraishin Shiki in his apartment. He had a seal to make. The sky was dark with clouds, shrouding the village in shadows. It was perfect for him to sneak around. In a series of flash steps, he was at the Hokage Tower in minutes. Dodging the ANBU on patrol, he easily masked his chakra signature and sneaked into the office. He soon found the Hokage vault and took out a piece of paper, a complex seal drawn on it. He slapped it onto the vault door and watched as it glowed for a moment. He knew opening the door was no problem for him, but the alarms that would sound after would be. Which is why, he created a seal that would suppress the alarms of any seal for roughly 10 minutes. Enough for him to complete his task. He took the scroll and slung it around him. He exited the way he came from, but paused for a moment. What's up, GG? Hiruzen replied as if he totally hadn't caught Naruto stealing. The night strolls are often very peaceful for me. I trust that the scroll would be returned, that was more of an order. Naruto simply nodded, making his way to the exit when Hiruzen stopped him. You know it would look suspicious if it looked like I just let you through. A mischievous grin almost split his face in half. This was the perfect time to try it. He turned around, not bothering to hide his grin. He put his hands in the ram seal, whispering, Oiroke no Jutsu. A puff of smoke revealed a curvaceous and an extremely beautiful blonde female Naruto, clad in birthday clothes. Wisps of smoke were covering the more important bits. It was the Sandame's weakness as well as his sweetest dream. A huge amount of blood burst from his nose with such force that he fell backwards unconscious, having a perverted smile on his face. Naruto released the henge, barely holding himself from laughing out loud. Yash! Oiroke no Jutsu is a success, he thought in celebration before Flash stepping out and into the forest. He arrived with half an hour to spare. Shrugging, he put the scroll on ground and opened it up, looking for something useful. He found the Kage Bunshin along with its explosive counterpart, Bunshin Daibakuha. He also found the Gojo Kabaku Fuda, a jutsu created by the Naidame. It was about self-replicating explosive tags. A wicked grin crossed his face. I'll have so much fun with this one. He also found a very interesting theory on how to change the color of your lightning. A thoughtful look crossed his face and he mused, it will be cool if I can do that. The blue of lightning hurts my eyes. Red lightning sounds much better. He always avoided Raiton because it was just too bright for his eyes. So for the next 2 hours, he relentlessly practiced changing the color of his lightning. It was tedious work, but he was able to do it, without shadow clones. At the end of 2 hours, he lightly panted but watched in pride as red currents of lightning danced across his body. I did it. Who? The theory was easy to understand, but not so much when implementing, he thought with relief. The red lightning was significantly better on the eyes and was less chakra consuming, though he did not know why. Suddenly, he sensed a familiar chakra and smiled, about time someone came looking for me. A few moments later, Irika burst out of the bushes, looking around wildly. When he spotted Naruto innocently sitting on the ground with the forbidden scroll on his lap, he snapped. Naruto, he began in a strained voice, just what do you think you are doing? He ended in a shout. Naruto, to his credit, wasn't rattled a bit. He just smiled widely and decided to out the traitor. Well, Mizuki-sensei told me to bring this scroll for him here. So, I was just waiting for him, Irika-sensei. A cold feeling washed over him at that. Mizuki told you that? But dash. Explanations later, Irika-sensei. For now, be on your guard, Naruto calmly said as he stood up and slung the scroll over him, hands crossed over his chest as if waiting for something. Irika was about to grill him further when his instinct screamed at him to dodge. He leaped aside to dodge the hail of shuriken, but one struck his sleeve onto the shed and another got buried in his thigh. Naruto lazily caught the kunai that was heading towards him between 2 of his fingers. A second later Mizuki appeared before them, smiling smugly. Well done, Naruto. Now hand over that scroll to me, he said. Naruto was about to speak when Irika shouted, Mizuki, why are you doing this? Mizuki growled, for power, you idiot. I want power, nothing else. Naruto, hand it over. Right. Now. Don't do it, Naruto. Irika shouted desperately as he struggled to free himself. Mizuki smiled sickly, do you know why everyone hates you, Naruto? Naruto raised an eyebrow, curious to hear what the traitor had to say. Oh, do tell. Don't do it, Mizuki. Irika shouted. This could not happen. It would absolutely break Naruto's spirit. It's because you're the Kyuubi. 12 years ago, when the Yondaime defeated the Kyuubi, he didn't kill it. He sealed it into a baby, which happened to be you. You hold the killer who took thousands of lives that day, including Irika's parents, he finished in a crazed tone. Hiruzen, who was watching from his ball, had gone pale. This isn't good. That idiot Mizuki has told Naruto of the secret. But then he noticed that Naruto hadn't reacted to that at all. His face became paler, nearly to the point of white. Could it be that he already knows? He refocused himself and watched. Naruto simply gave Mizuki his patented look, are you done displaying your stupidity? Mizuki was as confused as Irika. You are obviously unworthy of your rank since you can't tell the difference between a sealing scroll and the kunai which is sealed into it. As for the Kyuubi, I have already known for 6 years, he calmly revealed. Irika had gone pale at that. Naruto had known since he started the academy. Mizuki was growling at the insult aimed at him. How dare that demon insult him? And you tried to hurt Irika-sensei, here his tone turned menacing, so I really can't let you go scot-free. Naruto was contemplating whether to knock Mizuki out with a simple Raiton jutsu, or give him third-degree burns with a Katon jutsu. Logic, logic, logic. Fuck logic. He just tried to hurt Irika. Let's go for brute force. With that, he formed a half-ram seal and instantly, the whole clearing around them was filled with smoke. As soon as the smoke cleared up, Mizuki became paler than he already was. Hundreds of Naruto surrounded him. Every inch of the clearing was covered by a Naruto, each of them looking at him with those menacing blue eyes. He had a sudden realization, same as Irika. The clones he created in the exam were shadow clones. Let's go. One of them shouted, and together, the whole army of Naruto descended upon him. Naruto walked up to Irika, all the while listening to the sounds of bones cracking and breaking. He dispelled the clones and hid a small wince at the memories. Mizuki was literally a broken man now, in both the ways. Naruto knelt down beside Irika, freeing him easily and helping him up. Irika had a confused expression on his face. Naruto, do you? Yeah, I know about him. We're actually very good friends, he revealed nonchalantly, laughing at the horror on Irika's face. In a much gentler tone, he said, now let's get you to the hospital, sensei. That thigh wound won't heal itself. In a flash step, they disappeared. The search was called off when Naruto and Irika returned to the Hokage with the scroll. The Hokage commended them for stopping Mizuki from escaping the village with the scroll. He also gave Naruto a B-rank mission pay, as well as a B-rank mission on his record. He wanted to ask him about him knowing the Kyuubi, but decided that now wasn't the best time, so he let him go. Thanking his Gigi, he exited the tower and instantly flashed to the Hiratian formula in his apartment. He took off his clothes and fell onto the bed in his boxers. Pulling the covers on him, he smiled and closed his eyes. His shinobi life was off to a great start. Tomorrow will be interesting.